Good evening on this beautiful Sunday. And today we're going to talk about men in general, not just black men. We're going to go into different topics and discussions on health, living, family, and just life, money, wealth, all of that. They are not speaking for all men in general. These are just their opinions off of my questions. So it could go to their personal lives or whatever, but they're not speaking for every man in America. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Quilo Qism with a Tycoon Follow.
Cornelius.
Nick Muhammad.
And before we get started, before we can go into family or having a relationship or having children, of that matter, we have to go into taking care of ourselves. And when we take care of ourselves, it starts with the well-being of our health in general. So if you can't take care of your health, you're not going to be able to take care of anyone, period, if you're not taking care of yourself. So the first question that I have is that the top leading deaths in men as when they get older is lung disease, cancer, stroke, suicides, and just natural, just like falling on the ground or something like that. So what are you doing right now in your personal life to take care of yourself, fitness-wise, health-wise, and nutrition-wise? What are some of the things that you guys are doing right now?
Well, you want to have a good solid gym routine. Get a gym membership. I've got one at LA Fitness. I've been focusing on eating a lot better, and that only comes with having irritable bowel syndrome. So I have to eat better.
Mm-hmm.
I find I have a lot more energy.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, I feel a lot better than I had been. So, just the simple steps: staying stress-free and maintaining a healthy diet and a good workout routine.
Okay.
Well, for me, my personal life, I use technology too. I document my steps just in my general day to see what my day-to-day exercise may be and see if that matches. Should I increase any type of cardiovascular or anything like that to build stamina? Other than that, food, I'm very health conscious. I go between a vegan and pescatarian diet.
Okay.
So I'm already outside of meat and stuff like that, and it drastically changes everything, really, to be honest with you. Outside of that, try to keep stress levels down, so that way, anxiety and stuff like that, it helps you think straighter. Your anxiety, if you manage your anxiety level, anxiety affects your appetite. It really does. And your appetite and your sleep are the two things that help you stay healthy.
I would echo some of the similar recommendations that are made here. I prescribe to a vegan lifestyle. I dabble in the alkaline lifestyle. I think that sleep is definitely not talked about enough. So you can do a lot of working out, you can eat right, but if your sleep regimen, which is the repair system to help incorporate everything that you're doing, you still can sell yourself pretty short. And that's still a constant battle. Trying to get out of the quote unquote no sleep club, where you can't be successful and get, good healthy sleep at night.
Yeah.
It's just simply not true. So
The opting out of sleep, that's the most worst thing you can do. You need to give yourself a rest.
That is very true, because a lot of people that do constantly work out, they feel that their muscles are being deprived and it starts to hurt, but sometimes it's like that because you're not giving your body enough rest. And when you don't give your body enough rest, your muscles aren't resting. That's very, very true. And another question that I would like to get into, and I brought it up one of the top 5, is suicide. And so when people think about suicide, we often think about depression, and that's the number one cause of it, is depression. I was reading an article, and it stated that women, they often kill themselves 3 times. Women, they try to commit suicide, but the attempting of actually killing themselves is lower than men. Men are 3 times more likely to fall through and actually killing themselves. And it's not like with hanging, it's like with a pure shotgun. It's like done and get it over with.
Quick over.
And so when I go into suicide, I think about self-esteem. And what age did you guys start noticing self-esteem problems with yourselves, like being too dark-skinned or being overweight or anything like that?
I guess when I was a kid, really, you know, a lot of times I was teased about being too skinny. You know, so that created a lot of self-esteem issues. But I mean, I eventually grew out of it. You know, grew out of it, learned to love myself, and you know, self-esteem got been an issue. You know, since probably the age of 10.
Okay.
But yeah, it's an early age that I recognized the self-esteem due to physical characteristics or what have you.
Mine was earlier on, like 5, 6, but mine was due to an active consciousness. My father taught an active awareness of self and a differentiation about self. So that way it gave me a better understanding of how to orientate myself. So that way I didn't orientate myself through the actions of others, but just through the actions of what was taught or told, you know what I mean? So for me, it was like being aware of things. It did play a big role on a lot of things, just knowing, okay, I was skinnier than others, or I was older but yet smaller, or I might have been smarter here and naive there, or annoying here. So I was always constantly aware of these little different things, which again, in my opinion, toughened and dealt with my emotions a little bit faster.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that I really let anything get to my self-esteem. Being aware of self-esteem is something that you can be privileged to learn, right? So it's like if you don't miss what you never had type of deal.
Okay.
So it's like, you know, for me coming up, there was a mixture of acceptance of who I was, and it wasn't until, you know, I attended schools with integrated people that my self-esteem was ever called into question, and that's just basically due to other people's ignorance, right? So, you know, me being dark-skinned, me being black, me being from Mississippi with a country accent was new to a lot of sheltered kids in the North, particularly white kids.
Right.
So for me, looking back, is more so their insecurity and a reflection of them. I don't adopt a lot of labels with a lot of studies, simply because a lot of those studies haven't been committed by people who actually want to understand the community more so than to exploit the community. Because I've noticed that when these labels started popping up, so did all the medication that was supposed to fix it. And our children were literally made more vulnerable as a result. Now, this is not to say that depression isn't a real thing. I had a friend, may he rest in peace, his name used to call him Bud. And anybody that knew Bud knew he was a happy-go-lucky, happy-go-lucky type of brother. But underneath it, there was a lot of deep-seated issues that were going on. None of us knew what was going on until, one day he tragically did commit suicide. And I remember, just thinking, what could we have done, in that scenario? So it's more so, just being aware of how we interact with each other. I think a hello, an actual interpersonal relationship contact with people and just sharing, a positive message or just healthy interaction with people, checking in on people can go a long way. But I stopped short of, epidemics, dealing with those type of things because people want to attach a dollar sign to treatment.
Yes, that's true. And so you guys all touched on self-esteem as children, but how's your self-esteem as an adult? So due to the fact that the suicide rate is high in men in general, so how's your self-esteem as an adult right now?
Very high.
Yeah, I would say mine's pretty high as well.
Okay, it's still the same as...
Yeah, it's pretty high.
Okay, because I don't think self-esteem has anything to do with looks and, as I mentioned before, but how are you as a man right now with your emotions, being able to express your emotions? And what I mean by that, as you get older, rather than when you were little, some boys tend to deal with, oh, don't cry, don't do this, and this could lead up to adulthood, and so why it's affecting your self-esteem and why there's a higher suicide rate. So that's why I'm asking that question now. How is it now as an adult? Do you guys have these emotions? Are they different from when you were a child? So there's no difference right now. That's what I mean.
Yeah, for me it is exponentially. Me growing up, I'm a sensitive individual through and through, so that hadn't changed, and that's like the nature of a sensitive individual. But as a child, I used to just kind of fly off the handle a lot more. As I got older, I had to understand how to render my emotions, so now how to let the just joy take over, anger take over, sorrow take over. So I had to watch myself from plummeting into an emotion versus not even experiencing one. So being over emotional is an experience for me. Learning how to focus them and render them, and to the point where sometimes certain emotions for me can become almost like autistic form. Like I might not understand, like maybe I should feel or shouldn't feel a certain kind of way in this as well. So complexities of dealing with emotions is something that I feel as an individual, versus sometimes other people who are unfamiliar with only about 2 or 3 emotions.
Well said. I guess from childhood to now, I would definitely say my self-esteem is pretty high. It basically comes from accepting myself, my thoughts, my feelings, and everything. There was a time where I used to feel guilty when bad things would happen to other people, and I mean, it was nothing to do with me, and that would, send me into an emotional wreck. But now, it's more so, it's like I sympathize with people and empathize with people, but at the same time, recognize that it doesn't have to affect me emotionally. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I shed tears if need be, if, something's impactful enough to shed a tear or two. Yeah, and to piggyback off, was it Q?
Yeah.
The main thing is to, I had the thought in my head, I just lost it there. Well, to wrap that up, I kind of lost my thought there. I'm pretty high with my self-esteem at this day and age.
Okay.
Well, I think there's too much emphasis on trying to promote the childhood of boys and the identity of men from women. Like women trying to equate the perfect, emotional and psychological value for men is just as ridiculous as men trying to evaluate the emotional and psychological value of women from childhood.
Yes.
And I see too many people trying to take up agency over what manhood is. Manhood, frankly, is not surrendering to your emotions. Emotions aren't bad.
Yep.
But the reality is, when you see a bunch of emotional men who are literally very emotional about every single thing, those are usually the men that are out of control. Those are the men that every little thing is going to break them. They can't handle rejection. And the reality is, these are men that 9 times out of 10 had no men around them coming up. And the only thing that they were able to observe was women. And when women get together, sometimes they bicker back and forth in high energy. And that trait is not masculine. They're being taught today that that's somehow going to create masculinity. But the reality is, we're trying to get away from something that's very simple. When it comes to nature, there's nothing better than a strong, healthy family. Now, do families break up? Yes, they do. But when we talk about healthy people, particularly males, people act like there's supposed to be some healthy substitution for having access to a healthy father. and there isn't.
There's never no
There's
substitution.
no government program. There's no new psychological catchphrase buzzword that's gonna make up for what you learned from a biological person that puts you on earth, that loves you in a way that nobody else will. There's no substitution for that. And if women really wanted to understand the depth of what I'm saying, just imagine a world without your mother.
There you go.
Right? And having a society tell you you don't need your mother 24/7, and that all you need to do is toughen up and act like a man a little bit more, and you'll be okay. No, it's ridiculous. The value of men has been systematically chipped away at, particularly black men.
Degraded.
And that is what, like, I'm kind of tired of hearing people who don't have any type of medical or professional background in psychology or anything, making all these grandiose assumptions. And the brothers and sisters who do have those backgrounds, who take the time to study black men, they're being drowned out because they're not sensationally, putting their data out there. Because a lot of things have been put out about black men that are just completely false. Like, we're the #1 fathers in the country. Ivy League schools have done this study and established that. But when you talk about deadbeats, the first thing that pops into people's mind is a black man. And it's just not true.
It's just propaganda though, because just out of the human
fullest.
nature, I need someone or something to blame for my pain. You get what I'm saying? So, like Hitler, the rendition is I create a villain and an apparent villain, and I propagate propaganda regardless of actual facts, so that way people can eat that, because seeing is believing, regardless of the paper stating. You know what I mean? And that is also a disjunction in which placates into the bad father role for, men, and then men that are just of a different cultural aspect. But even in men in general, I deal with generational rebound, where people are like, oh, remember back when it was in the 40s and what happened to those dads? And you hear the generational of how they fell off. And then you deal with us, man. I'm an 80s baby, crack epidemic, in the Clinton era of 3-strike rule. And I'm like, there you go, right there. You know what I'm saying? And we can either further this back to a primal era of when men took up arms to fight other men for wars and told the women and children to go behind. Just on a global species trait, men used to fight each other and kill each other, leaving for per man to fall, literally male to fall on the ground, leaving behind 2, 3, 4 females on the physical count. So here's our history breaking our numbers and creating already the construct of a man to woman, which is the hunter-gatherer syndrome. So we do the hunter-gatherer syndrome for a bunch of eras. Thus, now we living in a modern world and we're still having a hunter-gatherer. I'm gonna stay home and do this, and you're gonna go out and work and do this. But our societal has kind of flipped itself on the head, but it still wants to live with the same rendition of the hunter-gatherer. You're still supposed to be a hunter, but I decided I don't want to gather, I want to be a hunter too. And he's like, well, somebody needs to be gathering. You can't be hunting, and I can't be hunting, and ain't nobody at home taking care of home. Because when we bring this back,
and I think there's something to be said about the, because the hunter-gatherer thing is still going on in parts of sub-Saharan Africa, in Australia, and these people live relatively decent lives. Some healthier and longer than the people that live in developed worlds. The reality is, it's just about nature, balance.
that's true.
Right? There's things about men and women that everybody's trying to act as if these differences aren't inherently because there's a difference in men and women. Now, does that mean that you're not gonna, come across women that can box like a dude?
Exactly.
Yes, you will find women
Yes,
that
you
can box like a dude.
will.
Will you find men that can do hair? Yes,
You will.
But by and large, we're just saying that there are simple natures that literally lend themselves to the best scenario for family development. Most women pay attention to far more details than men.
Yes, they
Which is
do.
why, when it comes to nutrition and food and taking care of family, women took on that role because they were sharper. Another word for cooking is chemistry,
But you
biology,
have to right off of
science.
that. You're right, because they have a better sense of smell and taste than any of us too.
Regardless of all that, I'm saying I'm not finna trust a brother that's probably gonna miss that there's a poisonous gland in the fish,
Yeah.
and the sister's gonna be like, nah, bro,
I
this
see that.
particular
Right.
species of fish is X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
They're very detail orientated.
Yes,
Men have that high testosterone nature. That's why we go out to hunt. They don't want to have to sit back and put a hunter who's going to be in a place where they can't even bring the kill back to the village.
That's right.
Right? Now these things are very primal,
There you
but
go.
they're embedded in our DNA. They're who we are, and you can demonstrate that by the time whenever you copulate and it's time to procreate, and another life comes into the world. Look at the vulnerability that a woman eventually develops into at 9 months pregnancy. She's vulnerable, the child's vulnerable, and it's the man's job to make sure that they're prepared and protected. Now, when you put capitalism in the middle of all that, you get the exploitation of the family unit for a lot of different angles and a lot of different reasons.
Yes,
But I'll
you do.
leave it there.
Yes, you do.
So when you're talking about getting the exploitation of, the family unit, we're going to talk about money and how we exploit that. And when we exploit money, we kind of exploit men.
Yes.
And when it comes to that, we as women tend to think that men are the backbone of money.
Mm-hmm.
And why do you guys think that is? Is that bothersome to you guys? Is that stressful? But why do you think that is coming into play?
I mean, it's bothersome in a sense. I wouldn't say completely bothersome because everybody wants that financial security some ways, from somewhere. But it's bothersome because in this day and age, it's like you are almost never gonna find like a true soulmate or a true love companion or whatever you want to call your companion in life, unless there's a fat bank account laying around somewhere. Unless some the other, whether it's a man preying on a woman for her money or a woman preying on a man for his money. It goes both ways in this day and age. That's where I've seen a flip. Back when I was growing up, the men went out and provided, and the hunter gatherers, that we were just talking about. The men went out, worked, provided, and brought home whatever was needed, while the mom stayed at home or the woman stayed at home and took care of home. Nowadays, as Nigel spoke on, Nick, I'm so sorry about it. Women, they're putting themselves in that role where, if they need to, because they're more detail oriented, if if this is going to be needed, they foresee this, they're going to take those steps to make sure that it's going to be covered, because we're not necessarily picking up on these extra things that might come up in the near future.
Does anyone else have anything they want to add to that?
Sure. I think that particular disposition is a very well executed calculation of this country. Most black women want a man that can provide. However, most black women are in situations where if the man can provide, he doesn't provide at the level of some of his counterparts in other races. So the frustration comes from things that are compiled on top of an already fragile relationship. So in this country, you have people who literally came here from the end of Civil War to the end of World War II, white immigrants who literally did nothing but be white and were given land, they were given free education at places like the University of Minnesota. They were given 0% interest loans in order to develop the land that they were on, and they were given government subsidies to farm. Martin Luther King spoke on this at his poor man's rally, and literally everybody missed the ball on what he was talking about before he died. The reason this is important is because everyone isn't just looking at men for money. This country literally ostracized black men, regulated them as the lower class of all men in the country, then built a capitalist society around them being at the very bottom. Now, us not being able to perform and compete in those marketplaces at the same level creates a level of stress within our family units, which is why the bargaining chip of welfare literally breaks up more families than
Plays
it
the
helps.
substitute of the
Because
father's income.
You have a woman who's given access to government housing, you know, Section 8 housing, subsidized housing, food stamps, and maybe a little small stipend. Now, this woman actually doesn't know, especially black women, that they literally deserve way more. One. Number two, this is not how they applied welfare to white immigrants when they came here. White immigrants' entire family units were held, while the black family units were split up through policies that literally created tension where there was no tension needed. Under the guise of, if you help this family, that black man's gonna get lazy. Well, they didn't say that when the white families were receiving government support, and to this day, those same farmers still get free government subsidies, not the farm.
Yeah,
But their children went to school, their children graduated, became Fortune 500 CEOs and or just productive members of society that were able to retain more income and generate more stability for the family. The housing and the homes that those parents were given increased in value. They got them at $5,000 back in the late 40s. Now they're worth, $1 million plus. These are assets inside of the family. When you look at the disposition of the average black father, you're not looking at something that's, just a matter of us not getting along.
Yeah.
The black woman needs just as much help as the black man.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, she's been exploited to believe that he is the source of all her problems.
Yes.
When the reality is we've been living under the thumb of a system that literally has made him the target of their racial vitriol in order to break down the family unit. Now, for those that want to test what I'm saying, you had a sitting president in Lyndon B. Johnson in 1965 sit on Howard University and confess this whole thing. Just look it up on YouTube. And you'll see a sitting president that said the first thing that white people need to do is take accountability for breaking down the black family unit. And they did this by rendering the black man incapable of providing for his family by locking him out of the economy. Right? All of that plays a role in why we're looked at for money. When you create a community that has poverty running rapid, everything is going to be about money because everybody wants to get out of there. And the way that they're told you get out of there is through money.
So if we're getting out through money, and when I was reading the article, right now, women are like in the workforce are at 53%. So if you take a household with a man and a woman, no matter if you're married in a relationship, just together in general, someone in that household is going to make more than the other. So that's just move that out of the way. So if the women are up here right now and men are right here, what is going on? And so why isn't it at a balance right now? It's 2019. So what is going on? Not only that, let me finish. They say the workforce with men is declining since the 1950s, right? And so I'm reading another article. This is where we start to contradict ourselves in the thought process. In the 1950s, it's going down. But then I read an article that was published in Pittsburgh. It was Carlow University. They said, why are men becoming the new minority in college? So if the rate in college is down and the rate in jobs is down, what is really going on here? Is it that they don't want to work? What is going on? That's something I can't ask, but you guys can ask.
I have a few
Answer.
things. I wanted to tie in what they were saying too, because I know that we had a prelude about trying to stave off of personable blackmail, and everything that he said does support in damaging the aspect of the black male. What damages the aspect of the black male is, like he said, from day one, there is no black male construct ever to be elated, period, okay? Which is already about to start off his issue with masculinity, because the leading white male that lives here gets to set the standard for all male society now. So now here's the tone, boom.
Yeah.
And now once we start to get our liberties, we're already crippled, and we have to now live up to a bar that has been set prematurely for us from someone else's masculinity. Ours is already crippled, You know what I mean? And stay being crippled every time we try to build it up. So by the time that we get into the modern world of today and societal, it's like you are crap as man rendition overall, and and it's because you're black. And it's like, yes, because I'm black, I am not able to actually look like the measurement of the man that has already been perceivably created before I even got up until this point. You know what I'm saying? It's been so what he was saying is completely right. And the issue is that the tone of masculinity has already been predated, set by not just by white people, but even other people before us. And people are not able to let the standards of before us even start to change and evolve. You're still trying to uphold 40s and 50s standards in 2000. So whether it was black or white, we're still trying to render this man helm, woman docile construct, even though, like you said, that's not the case. The woman is actually out in the workforce and the man is actually at home. A paradigm has happened and a switch has happened, yet, like you said, our primal hunter and gatherer has not changed though. The men still have this instinct of hunter of millions of years in us and is told to be at home now, cooking and cleaning and ringing. And the women are now able to, which is funny though, I have noticed that women have a duality of personalities. They are just as much as hunters as they are gatherers. Where men, we stick to a trade. So if that guy is a gatherer male, he will be a gatherer male, but he'll be great at it. If he's a hunter male, once we structure ourselves like a football player to a basketball player, once a male molds himself in that aspect, that's what he wants to go to until he is into the dirt. Where ladies, y'all have this flexibility, and that gives y'all a difference.
I believe we do have a flexibility, but it gets to a point where, say, how can I word this? If we have a flexibility, I'm trying not to be, we have a flexibility to be gatherers, as you said. A man should have that flexibility too.
He should.
You know what I'm saying? Because it gets to a point where a man can be at home as like a woman, right? But still, you still don't want to work. Do you get what I'm saying? That's like sitting at home with children, right? And I'm as a woman working, but I'm still finding babysitters. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes, I know. You're not
What
doing.
sense
You're not
does that
holding
make?
anything of what you're supposed to do at home, and that's no sense at all. No male should opt out of doing the role because they lack in trying to fulfill the role that they desire, and that goes for any individual human being. This is not a male or female rendition.
Exactly.
If it needs to be done, it needs to be fulfilled. That's just the necessity of a village. You know what I'm saying? The role needs to be filled whether you're male or female. Now there are roles, like he said, that have a natural affinity. Some people just are able to do things naturally and fulfill it, and that's who should fill it. So like he said, some men can fill that role and some women can fill the role, and then you have roles that are interchangeable. I'm seeing the reason why the work field has become more interchangeably for women than it has for male is because the community is being like, even in like customer service, women are more approachable, period. Men don't really like to even approach different men, and then since we have, cultural issues, just a black guy to a white guy in the line can just start. That's how we get all the fights, the race wars. But regardless, black woman, white woman, every time male disposition, women brings a more tamed nature. So if I'm out trying to shop and I'm probably a person that has my own prejudice and biasness, if I still have to buy from something that I'm uncomfortable with, it's not the masculine version. So I guess I can get through this a little bit more peacefully. So which increases just your your supply and demand. And it's the need of, I'd rather deal with a woman than a man.
So since we keep talking about masculinity,
I wanted to address
Go
the
ahead.
question because
go ahead.
I think that there's narratives that have nothing to do with black people. Like, we're not really fighting a masculine or a gender war with each other. We're at the bottom of the same boat. And the reality is, black women have been graduating at the highest levels of college all across the country.
Yes.
Right? They are the breadwinner, whether they're in poverty or not, in most homes.
Yes.
Right?
Have always been.
But the reality is, no, they haven't always been. and that's where we've been literally fooled.
That's where I'm trying to
I
get the
know,
understanding.
and that's what I'm
from.
saying. Most women that are in my life, if I'm just being general, are tired. They work hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because that's their nature and they're trying to prove or break some cycle. They have to.
They just have to.
Black women are the only women who haven't had the option to say, hey, I want to raise my family. And I think one of the first things that we got to stop doing, because it's completely dangerous to the development of family, is acting as if a woman staying at home taking care of the kids is somehow a demotion. Somehow something that should be, that looked down upon like it's something that every and anybody can do. No, let's be real. People don't care for other people's kids the way you think they do. They're not going to learn their culture and who they are going to kindergarten and preschool unless it's a culturally competent kindergarten and preschool, which is few and far in between.
There you go.
Now, if you want to talk about changing the future, but the first thing you want to do is destroy the family unit, not let moms be moms, not actually have the best teacher of children, which is the mother, actually have time to create that bond with their children, build up things like self-esteem. One of the first things you do when you're trying to break any species is remove it from its mother. That's how you tame and literally bastardize any species of animal on the planet. Now, black people in this country particularly, it's interesting that black women will be plucked away from their kids. And that same mother will be placed in a home to be mothers to white children. Mammies, all of that stuff raised hundreds and millions of young white kids in this country throughout history. But we haven't taken the time to send that same love, that same brilliance, that same care back to the black children that need her desperately. And men, by and large, need to be able to have that first and foremost before they need your college education, before they need access to some job. They need to be whole individuals with a solid family unit, and they need to begin to re-examine the way that we look at family. Because the more women make, it seems the more miserable women are becoming. Women are not happy in all these roles. Because the more we talk about it, the more the next conversation is, I can't find a good man. Nobody can't find a good man because most men aren't attracted to other masculine traits. Running out, I don't know any man that's looked down the street and be like, ooh, look at the accountability and the way she can provide. Just look at her bank account. And to me, that's a weak man. Any man that's measuring a woman by what she has is a man that really doesn't deserve her. A real man will be out there taking care of his own to begin with. He's not going to look at you for financial gain. He's not going to look at you for financial stability.
That's true.
And the reality of the matter is we've gotten too far off course. And I think if we keep jumping down that road, I don't see how we see a future as a community when we're all out of order. Now, we're the only community that does that to our own detriment. I don't see Hmong communities with no language, colorful language between their men and women. I don't see it with the Somalis. I don't see it with most Caucasians. Now, does this mean that they're healthy in every sense? No. I'm just saying that they do prioritize family long enough to create stability, to create community, to create business and industry. But I think if we keep on allowing other people to tell us what we think and feel, that we're going to be in trouble.
Well, and that's what she's like telling on the topic. And like I said, when it's a very sensitive topic when you're talking about masculinity to black men. Because
why is that?
Because like he said, the absentine of the identity, you can't get masculinity from femininity. You gotta.
No, I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying that that's not even an